Arjun Dev Arora from ReTargeter, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So we're going to start with the 3 to get ready tips. Your top tip for someone who's trying to get a job with a startup, trying to succeed in a startup job, and your top tip that somebody might need to run screaming from their job with a startup.
Yeah.
What is your number 1 tip for someone who's trying to get into a startup?
Yeah, the number 1 tip for getting into a startup is really kind of the network. So I think the networking component is the most important piece. Knowing folks within the startup, knowing folks within the community that the startup spends a lot of time in, are all probably the easiest way, the way with the least friction to get a job at the startup. So whether that's going to meetups, events, conferences, being introduced to friends of friends, that's probably the best and easiest way to get a job at a startup.
And if someone were to go to a meetup or a conference and they just walked straight up to you and said, "Dude, love your company," is that okay with you, or you want?
Yeah, that's great. I think that would be wonderful. I think that shows kind of commitment to being part of the right communities that we're a part of, and to make the effort to actually connect with us. I would love if someone did that.
Great. Okay. So, what is your top tip for succeeding in a startup job?
I think a top tip for succeeding is really around understanding the values of the startup. Some startups will be very clear about what those values are. Others, you'll have to kind of figure it out over time. You'll have to understand implicitly kind of what those values are. But once you're clear on what the values of the startup are, what's important to the people within the organization, and where the vision of the executive team or the founder is, and you kind of play to that, I think you will, without question, succeed. So I'd say the most challenging part is understanding the values. Hopefully, if it's the startup has got their act together, they're clear about what their values are, and then just following those is the best way to do it.
That's great. That's great. Okay, and then the last tip is, what is the number 1 sign for you that someone might need to get the heck out of the startup?
Yeah, I think it matches pretty much in line with part number 2, which is that if you feel like you're not aligned with the values of the startup, or the startup feels like they're not aligned with your values, that's probably the easiest way to know that it's not going to be a good fit. And other kind of things that generally tend to come up is if you don't jive well with the founder, if the founder is crazy, egotistical, maniacal, I mean, there's a lot of those things happen as well, then it's probably not a good idea to be there. I think being in a place where you enjoy your work, where you're having fun, working all the crazy hours and doing all that is really important. So to have an organization, a company, a founder, a team that respects that and has a lot of fun, I think is also really important.
Right. And so maybe also if you work for a startup that has a big fat hairy dog that walks in and out of interviews and you have allergies, move along.
Might not be a right fit. Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Okay. Great tips. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.